Doom: The Dark Ages is the 8th entry of this iconic first-person shooter from Bethesda and id Software. Recently, content creators and journalists had an extended hands-on preview of the game, and with many gameplay trailers and a direct breakdown from the studio, we can take a look at what Doom: The Dark Ages will feel like right now. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was sent down to Los Angeles to meet with Marty, Stratton, and Hugo of id Software to get hands-on time playing Doom: The Dark Ages. They had a full session with well over 2 hours of playtime across 4 different mission segments to play and record game footage. I'm going to break down the feel, tone, and expectations for Doom: The Dark Ages and what to expect when it launches May 15, 2025. Doom: The Dark Ages is a prequel to the reboot from 2016 and culls the hallmark and gameplay collaboration of Doom 2016 and 2020's Doom Eternal into a Frank Miller-inspired Year Zero origin story of Doomslayer at the beginning of the war on hell and humanity. Doomslayer is a dangerous last resort superweapon sent in to fight alongside the Great King's Army. Dark Ages has an in-engine, fully rendered and voiced cutscenes to offset the silent protagonist, offering up a classic medieval storytelling experience in a striking art style that melds the Dark Ages with sci-fi hellish brutality. I played the opening level with the introduction to the regular shotgun, movement, and combat mechanics, which we'll get into in just a moment. I got 10 minutes of Titan gameplay, and these levels are the perfect pace breaker for the on-foot gunplay of Doom. The Titan slows down the feel of the game, which amplifies the immersion of being inside a 30-story walking mech. You also have slow Godzilla-like melee combat, which is mapped to the triggers, like you're controlling the Titan, beating down huge hellish enemies that are just as big as you, and smashing through a destructible environment, making you feel like a hulking tank that is larger than life. The parry mechanics come into play, a timing deflection, beatdown, and destroying of colossal enemies. This is such a departure from the fast-moving bullet hell levels that will make up most of your time with Doom, but I did not get to see more of what the Titan levels have to offer. It said that the Titan is not a one-off level and will reoccur throughout the campaign, has its own upgrades and progression system. The Titan was the only underwhelming thing from this gameplay session, but it was immediately followed up with an extended level of the Flying Dragon. I got over 30 minutes of the Dragon level, which was made up of flying and dismounting to get on foot. Flying around in the Dragon reminded me of Transformers War for Cybertron in the 2010s, with side-strafing, heavy-mounted guns, and fast-pitch yawn roll movement, which was easy to control. Sometimes the Dragon felt a bit slow, but could be sped up through long level segments. There was a combat sequence where I was circle-strafing a large flying ship and taking out sentry guns, and timing parry deflections to weaken the armor of the ship so I could get inside to take down the core, enter its hull, and break it into a million pieces. Let's talk about the combat for Doomslayer when you're on foot. It feels like a modernized Doom 2, with mostly level fighting grounds and fairly slow-moving shots from the enemy that you either need to strafe and dodge to avoid, or wait and parry green projectiles. This new combat feature of deflecting enemy attacks either from guns or melee strikes is obviously one of the major mechanics that have shifted the tone and the feel of Doom: The Dark Ages. Waiting on green attacks sets up a parrying window that will, once deflected, sound a large church bell that hits the enemies with so much force it can break off armor and stun them, allowing you to run in and attack with melee. Doom: The Dark Ages offers you some 15 weapons you can constantly shoot at enemies with as long as you have ammo, but it seems like half of the combat was made to rush in, bash, and rip apart enemies. Ammo and health is no longer solely dependent on glory kills or melee strikes to heal up or replenish ammo, as these items are all liberally littered around the world to keep you moving and get pickups to stay into the fight. The opening level teaches a couple of different mechanics to deflect and stun enemies, and in Doom: The Dark Ages they have sort of removed the glory kill system. In previous games you just waited until an enemy was stunned so that you could let the game take over with 4 or 5 different glory kill animations. It said that we used to wait several seconds for these glory kill animations to take over in game, which essentially stopped our actual gameplay behind the controls. Now the glory kills are less contextual and more about striking, stunning, and closing the gap with enemies to take them down quickly, with a bit of slow motion feel that you can see that visceral takedown happen. This sped up of pacing of dispatching enemies made me feel like I was more in control of weakening and killing enemies faster. The world levels in Doom: The Dark Ages are mostly wide and linear, with limited verticality, and you'll no longer be parkouring and puzzle jumping or avoiding large double jump pitfalls that require dexterity, timing, and precision. Instead, you'll be quickly mantling up walls to traverse levels or staying in the fight with some light puzzles to unlock doors or find upgrades. After I got some time with the Titan level and the Dragonflight, we had an hour or two to play a Siege level, which is a recurring gameplay segment which feels like an enclosed Lord of the Rings battlefield. This is a large, oval-shaped map with limited verticality and a ton of enemies, mixing up the variety of foot soldiers, medium-sized or mini-bosses, and large boss leaders that are surrounded by minions in a partially destructible environment that gives you an organic approach how you clear the battlefield and finding upgrades along the way and some smaller quests. This is where I got to experiment with the creative combinations of upgraded weapons and abilities that are already available midway through the game. Doomslayer is so much faster, even though they describe him as a walking tank. With the parry and melee takedown mechanics, Doomguy can cover so much more ground more quickly, meaning you can bridge the gap between you and an enemy with over a 20-foot dash, even leaping to take enemies down from above or even from below. One of the new creative gameplay mechanics is called Breaking Morale. This is introduced with a larger boss battle with a purple health bar, a shield that protects the boss, and he can't take much damage until you've dispatched all of his minions that surround him on the battlefield. This is the morale meter that slowly reduces as you kill his foot soldiers and protectors. Once you have the boss by himself, we're told to stand and fight. Normally, in the Doom games, you circle strafe, and taking some time to get some distance between you and the enemy so you can put an onslaught of firepower on larger bosses. This was a great strategy in the former Doom games. This new mechanic in Doom: The Dark Ages demands that you stand and fight and hold your ground. This means unleashing firepower with multiple different weapon types, but also watching for green projectiles and heavy green melee attacks immediately so you can deflect and parry them. As soon as you parry the boss, you can stand toe-to-toe with strong melee strikes that will take down much more health than using your weapons. This sort of amounts to a David versus Goliath combat scenario of being patient and blocking dangerous attacks, and you're rewarded with a brutal boss takedown. We had a chance to play with two different main melee weapons, and one is the Saw Shield. It's going to be the most popular weapon in the game, and it was already my favorite item to wield with its own progression system and perks. You can hold the block button to deflect incoming attacks, or time a parry to stun enemies, but not long into the game we got the ability to throw the shield like Captain America. It can go out some 30 feet into the battlefield and recall it back like Thor's hammer. The shield also has some weakening abilities that is used to set enemy armors to a molten state. Setting an enemy to molten will make them glow orange, and this signals a shield throw to break molten armor off of enemies or knock shields off of them completely. This especially works for groups of enemies in formation with large shields blocking their body. To molten the shield, throw your buzzsaw shield to break their guard, and then gun them down or close the gap for a melee kill. The other melee weapon we got was the flail, a wood, chain, and steel medieval melee weapon that is used for close encounters, devastating glory kills that will knock armor off of enemies and bash their skulls open with a satisfying, visceral, brutal takedown. Everything about Doom is choice and creativity, and be able to switch between the shield and the flail and the menu system means you don't have to be set with one style of gameplay even throughout a single level. In this respect, Doom: The Dark Ages feels half as much of a melee game as it is a first-person shooter, and this was very satisfying. My time with Doom was mostly centered around limited access to a quarter of the weapons, only a small taste of the perks and abilities, and the breadth and scope of a hellish landscape we will be fighting in. The visuals, graphics, and fluid combat were uncompromising. The pacing afforded by mixing things up with melee and conventional guns and colossal levels playing in the Titan or flying around in the Epic Dragon. This tells me that Doom the Dark Ages will be a very well-paced, brutal and creative, well-delivered, single-player action-adventure first-person shooter. Doom the Dark Ages is set to release May 15th, 2025, so everyone only has about a month to wait to play the game. This hands-on preview gets me really excited to play the changes that Doom Eternal needed, and happy to see things circle around from Doom 2016. Doom the Dark Ages couldn't have come at a better time when fans are starving for mature, classic, brutal, and creative first-person shooters. I can't wait to see where Doomslayer's story takes us. This over 3-hour preview hands-on makes the wait until May even longer. This is Colteastwood. Thank you so much, and thanks to Bethesda and id and Xbox for sending me out to LA to get hands-on time with Doom the Dark Ages. I've been waiting for this game a long time, and thank you so much. If you ended up enjoying this preview and you got excited or you know what to expect, let me know by liking and subscribing to the channel. Hit the bell to be notified of new weekly content. If you want to further support what we're doing here on the Colteastwood channel, you can do that by hitting the join button below. Joining channel membership will get you early access to videos and perks like in the chat and so much more. Also, check out the Patreon if you want to support the channel or enter in for monthly merch giveaways. Or check out the Superclass if you want to learn how to do your own channel and learn graphic design, all one-on-one teaching by me. And I've done this stuff for a long time. Also, check out the XNC podcast. We run every Monday live, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Meg and I will be talking about the previews. We've got other games to talk about that are coming up, leaks and rumors, and so much more. That's a live show on YouTube, and it's available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts on demand. Thank you so much for checking that out. Let me know what you think about Doom the Dark Ages. If you're excited about playing it, what you think it's going to score when it comes out, write that in the comment section, what you think that Metacritic score will be. And while you're there, as I always say, please be nice.